given that it's about communication. Given that it's about communications in sustainability for beauty businesses, we'd then love to talk a little bit more about the return schemes ideas that we discussed last time. I sent round the John Lewis one you're probably all aware of. I trialled it the other day and can only be super positive about it as in terms from a customer experience, but would love to hear if others have used it and what models we're continuing to look at on returns. And then it'd be great to spend a little bit of time talking about climate action with the science-based targets and the UK, and the Race to Zero campaign as well. Natalie, I think we have on the agenda for Penhaligon's to share their new packaging. I don't know if that's something that you're able to do or not this time. I know it was discussed at the previous session, but I didn't know if the packaging would have been completed by then or not. So it might be it's not appropriate, but we'll take your steer on that. So without further ado, let's invite Rebecca and Bianca. Do you want to introduce yourselves? Because you're obviously new to the Harrods team.
Yes, do you want me to go first, Bianca?
Yes,
yeah,
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just I'll start. So I'm on day 2 at Harrods. So it's really really lovely to meet you all. I was in the session yesterday, the working group yesterday. If any of you were on that one. Yes, and I will be doing the maternity cover for Ankita when she goes off to have her first baby. So yes, I'm very excited to be joining the team. I'm really excited to be hitting the ground running, and interested to see all about the sort of the work that's going on in this group here, especially the John Lewis case study that you mentioned there.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, Rebecca. Bianca.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bianca and I am CSR executive for Harrods. I'm also quite new. I've been here for a month now, and I joined yesterday's session as well. Very interesting. So I'm looking forward to hear more about today's beauty focus.
Yeah, great to have. Well, great to have you both with us. Ankita, we all know, and Irina, you're joining us for the first time today as well.
Hi, yes, I'm Rabanne and I'm the founder.
Sorry, I said your name incorrectly. Apologies.
It's okay. I get my name said in all sorts of ways. I'm the founder of Rabanne Forte Skincare, and I'm looking forward to learning more and being part of the group.
With us, and we might ask you just a little bit, just a little bit more about the brand. So obviously, you've got sustainability bedded into the business from your inception, haven't you? Actually, just would you mind just telling people a little bit more about the business and the brand with the sustainability foundations? It could be great for the rest here if you just give a couple of minutes.
Sure. I launched the brand just over 2 years ago, really with sustainability at its heart. It's a natural brand backed by science, 100% made in Italy. We have an organic farm in Sicily where we source a lot of our ingredients from. We also do all sorts of things around sustainable packaging. We're about to launch refillables with a recycling program working with First Mile, which is a company that recycles a lot of product, a lot of brands, kind of components. What else? Yeah. We launched predominantly for spas and now have moved much more into the retail space. And we're growing quite quickly at the moment, which is very exciting because we did a bit of a shift due to COVID, moving more towards retail and away from spas.
Well, definitely for future sessions, we'd love to hear more about the refillables and also how you're working with First Mile. It might be quite interesting to ask First Mile to come and speak to the group possibly. That would be helpful for others as well. Are there any updates that anybody wants to share? Natalie, are there any updates, or Sistine, any updates that you want to share from Penhaligon's and from Molton Brown?
Yes, hello. Just quickly, my name is Natalie. I'm strategy director, I think, of Penhaligon's. Yes. I think I've met many of you. Just on our side, updates are we're launching new packaging. Unfortunately, this is coming later this month, so I can't share any pictures just yet, but next time, surely, we'll be very happy to. And the other thing is we're talking to TerraCycle about refillables. And one thing that's a bit difficult for us is that our product is obviously predominantly fragrance. So, and I think they currently don't offer recycling options for fragrance. So would be quite keen to hear from the other participants if they have any experience with this and how they've tackled this.
Well, definitely, we'd love to hear on that. Sistine, just want to provide any updates from your side?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Charlotte. Hello, everyone. I haven't met yet. My name is Sixtine Darlincourt, and I'm the Associate Director for Global Marketing at Molton Brown. I think the latest update worth mentioning on our side is the entire relaunch of our hair care category. Some of you might know that Molton Brown actually started as a hair salon back in 1971. So celebrating 50 years anniversary this year was a perfect opportunity for us to relaunch this key category for us. And we sort of rethought it entirely along the lines of our original brand ethos of, consciously caring for our customers, but also for the planet. So we've come up with a whole new range, which is using excitingly sustainably sourced ingredients, which are actually grown via hydroponic methods. So that's a very nice way, was a very exciting and nice way for us to rethink our formulas and ingredient sourcing. And those bottles are also, bottles of the range are also 100% made of post-recycled consumer plastic as well. So for us, it's another step in our sustainability journey. And I launched about 12 days ago and doing really well.
Congratulations,
very
brilliant.
exciting.
Any further updates anybody wants to update? Ankita, is there anything you want to update Harrods at all? I appreciate that Rebecca and Bianca, you are new to the role, so we'll defer to Ankita to provide any Harrods updates.
So from our point of view, we are looking into trialling a beauty recycling scheme in H Beauty in the scheme. So we've got a couple of H Beauty outlets and obviously our store as well. But to understand the appetite and uptake, we thought a localized trial would be much better. So we're looking into a 3-month trial. We explored it with ProCycle and Handle as well, but we've just had more traction, I think, with Handle. So we're just currently having conversations with our beauty team to see what will work best.
Brilliant. That would be, will that have been trialled by the next, well, maybe the next session or session after that, maybe Rebecca and Bianca could, will make a note if you'd be happy to come and tell the group about how the trial has gone.
Yeah, we're still at a proposal stage, so hopefully we'll be able to provide some update in the coming months, but yeah, Rebecca and Bianca can definitely do that.
Brilliant, that would be super to hear. Has anybody tried the John Lewis's beauty cycle program at all? I would definitely recommend if you are in a position where you have product to take back together, it's worth trying. It certainly works very well and was very efficient from the experience I had. Sistine, I know you're already doing the recycling for customers, aren't you, within Molton Brown, and that's going well still.
Yeah, going very well. It's still very early stage, and as we did last time, we're finding it's a very slow build. Obviously, massively indexed on the current circumstances and return to retail. Pilot that a few months ago with 6 stores, and we've at the beginning of June rolled it out across the entire estate. So we're seeing very different sort of results depending on where retail is at the moment regionally. But from the conversations we're having with customers visiting the stores, the appetite is there.
Certainly. Fantastic. Well, what we might do is we might circle back on the bring back schemes maybe in a couple of sessions time when we've got updates from Harrods team about how that's working, and hopefully we can get an update from our Estée Lauder colleagues as well, because I know they were researching too. So without further ado, let's hand over to Sally. Sally's going to share her screen and presentation. We can't wait to hear. Spring's insights are always fabulous, and we've got a great relationship with the Spring team.
Well, thank you very much indeed for that introduction, Charlotte, and thank you for inviting me to be part of the working session today. Let me jump on and share my screen. So hopefully you can now all see this okay. Perfect. Right, so our presentation today is all about crafting compelling, sustainable beauty communications in the age of greenwashing. So from the ban on microbeads to growing concern around single-use plastic, the buzz around clean beauty to the more recent blue beauty movement, it's safe to say that consumers are really waking up to the real impact that their beauty regime has on the planet. Further accelerated by the pandemic, conscious consumers are looking to reevaluate their beauty routines and take steps to clean up the industry as a whole. This increased focus of sustainability has seen an exciting new generation of beauty brands emerge who are generous in education and also don't require consumers to compromise between efficacy, ethics, and aesthetics. And yet the predominance of misleading eco claims and yet lack of universal sustainable certification means that so-called greenwashing is still rife. As a result, the ability for beauty brands and retailers such as yourselves to communicate sustainability in a way that is clear, compelling, and constructive is more essential than ever before. And so today we're thrilled to share with you Spring's 5 guiding principles for crafting compelling, sustainable beauty communications that can really capture consumers' imaginations and help to bring about meaningful change. Starting with number 1, create a compelling and ownable narrative underpinned by action. So we've all seen that sustainable beauty is a hot topic, with a deluge of both legacy brands and new entrants vying to win over conscious consumers with their commitments and claims. Our understanding and attitudes towards sustainability are evolving at pace, and so the challenge is really to identify that sweet spot where a brand's values and what is timely and relevant to consumers intersect. Those that are able to cut through are able to craft narratives that not only resonate on an emotional level, but are underpinned by tangible actions and initiatives, successfully appealing to both consumers' hearts and to their minds. And 2 examples to kind of bring this point to life. On the left-hand side, in March 2021, Unilever announced that it was removing the word normal from all of its products and communications in a bid to help end discrimination in beauty and to focus on its positive and sustainable practices. Spring is proud to have brought this initiative to life with a concept that redefines normality and underlines Unilever's commitment to doing good for both people and for the planet. Crucially, the positive beauty under mission is further underpinned by several progressive commitments. The pledge to help protect and regenerate 1.5 million hectares of land, forest, and ocean by 2030, and supporting a global ban on animal testing for cosmetics by 2023. And on the right-hand side, Biotherm's Live by Beauty manifesto is a call to arms, inviting customers to join them in the very topical Blue Beauty movement, and also explaining what it means to the brand. Beauty that comes from the ocean through the responsible sourcing of its life plankton hero ingredient, and that gives back through its commitment to ocean protection and reducing plastic waste. Biotherm actually first launched its Water Lovers Ocean Preservation Initiative back in 2012, which sees it working with both experts and NGOs. And to this day, Biotherm continued to pioneer refillable and recyclable packaging solutions across its full range. Number 2, appeal to the new skinimalist consumer mindset. Now, I mentioned at the top of the presentation that one of the things the pandemic has done is make people reevaluate their beauty regimes. What we're seeing is that one of Pinterest's top predictions for 2021, skinimalism, is all about achieving a pared back, healthy and effortless glow. And searches for natural everyday makeup are also up 180% year on year. Savvy brands are recognizing that actually this buy less, choose well mindset neatly dovetails with the growing interest in sustainable beauty and are highlighting skincare meets makeup hybrids that satisfy consumers' desire not only for invisible coverage, but also more streamlined approaches to their beauty routine. As part of this, we're also seeing that refillable products are really gaining in traction and actually also sophistication, not only in skincare, where I think traditionally they've had a little bit more leverage, but actually also increasingly in color cosmetics. And they're really being sort of celebrated as something to keep and to treasure, as well as being good for the planet, which has implications for the luxury sector as well. So 2 examples here. Ilia, with its clean skin-centric beauty position, boasts a range of best-selling multis, hard-working products with versatile uses that are part skincare and part makeup. They appeal to this skinimalist consumer mindset with products that can be used to colour and highlight both lips and cheeks, as well as a serum highlighter that delivers that desirable dewy glow alongside blue light protection. Ilia have worked really hard to simplify and source materials that are both safe for planet and safer product, which I know is often an inherent tension. And they also have partnered with TerraCycle to make sure that its packaging is broken down in a responsible fashion. And on the right-hand side, from its very inception, Victoria Beckham's eponymous beauty brand's goal has been to create true luxury performance in the clean beauty space. The brand brings together a clean and lean approach to product formulation, responsible sourcing, and sustainably minded design. In addition to its zero plastic, solid brass smoky eye compact, Victoria Beckham Beauty recently released its first ever refillable product, a covetable matte bronzing brick. Number 3, be transparent and generous in sharing insight and education. Now, it's fair to say that today there are a plethora of interests that come under the umbrella of sustainability. So cruelty-free, sustainably sourced, ethical, recyclable, refillable, etc. What is clear is that what constitutes sustainable is not actually clear-cut, because there is no universal certification and technology and supply chains are evolving at pace. As a consequence, 33% of consumers say that they're struggling to understand which products are genuinely eco-friendly, according to a report by Mintel. And 61% of women globally feel like brands are just labeling their products with clean beauty without any tangible details. And therefore, the challenge for brands is twofold. Be transparent, both in terms of progress and commitment, and be generous in education so that consumers are actually better equipped to make these sustainable choices. So 2 examples here. Wren first declared its pledge to become zero waste in 2018, and as part of that also committed to be totally transparent about every step of the journey towards its 2021 goal. As their CEO, Arnold Meisel, explains, this is particularly crucial as from a consumer perspective, actually many of the changes that they make aren't actually very visible. The product experience is the same, or indeed it improves, but we are explaining as we make these changes that components are now recycled and recyclable. And so the image you see here is actually extracted from one of their newsletters where they regularly communicate with consumers about the changes that they're making. And they're also really active in the social space as well. On the right-hand side, perhaps a lesser known brand, but the Advanced Nutrition Programme by the IIAA is a range of innovative supplements formulated to support healthy skin and well-being, while also protecting the planet. Fascinatingly, their managing director, David Alpert, is actually also a passionate marine photographer. And he was appalled by what he saw of damage to the marine ecosystem, and as a result, committed to introducing 100% environmentally friendly, recycled and recyclable paper-based packaging across the full range of product. Raising awareness about the fact that even so-called recyclable products can unfortunately often end up in landfill, the IIAA have coined, and they hold themselves to, the drop test standard. Now, I know that has many connotations within the cosmetic industry, but for them, it's, if I dropped this in the forest or ocean, would it biodegrade? So just really simple, but I think it's really clear and effective. Number 4, recognize that circular beauty can extend beyond category. I think we've really reached a turning point at which we recognise that no single person or company can bring about change at an industry level, and yet every individual action is crucial. The concept of circular beauty has definitely gained traction in recent years, based on the principles of designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and crucially regenerating natural systems. Inspired by this, innovative beauty brands are embracing cross-category and even intra-category partnerships in a bid to make the beauty industry as a whole more sustainable. So on the left-hand side, Lumine, the Nordic brand, have actually been pioneers of the circular economy in beauty for over 20 years now, demonstrating the potential of cross-category collaborations by working closely with the Finnish food and forestry industries. In fact, the majority of Lumine's potent Nordic ingredients are actually sourced from side streams of these industries that would otherwise simply go to waste. And on the right-hand side, launched in April of this year by Wren, the We Are Allies campaign defied industry conventions by seeing the brand form an unexpected alliance with 4 of its competitors, Biossance, Youth to the People, Caudalie, and Herbivore. The brands are united in making a zero waste pledge that states that all brands will create packaging that can be recycled and reused, and that contains recycled materials by 2025. Vasiliki Petru, who's the group CEO and EVP of Unilever Prestige, explains, it's true that advertising the competition doesn't make a lot of sense in traditional business, but the current environmental crisis really calls for us to do things differently. And finally, point number 5, which I think might be of interest based on some of the updates that you shared at the beginning. So make recycling part of your CRM strategy. You'll probably all recall that over a decade ago, MAC Cosmetics introduced Back to MAC, a program that works to reduce landfill by encouraging consumers to bring back 6 of its empty products for recycling, and in return, they receive a free lipstick. Fast forward to the present day, and what we're seeing is that innovative beauty brands are actually actively underlining their commitment to sustainability by making recycling a key part of their customer loyalty schemes, rewarding members for playing their part in reducing plastic waste and not just simply for purchase. As part of this dynamic, loyalty scheme members obviously also opt in to receive regular communications, and the brand can therefore share news about its sustainability commitments, reinforcing those shared values and helping to keep them top of mind. So 2 final examples here. The Korean natural beauty brand Innisfree is so committed to promoting sustainability that it has built recycling into the mechanics of its loyalty scheme. Working with the leading recycling company TerraCycle, Innisfree hosts recycling points in every single one of its retail locations. Loyalty scheme members not only receive points for every purchase that they make, but they can also earn 50 points for each empty container they return for recycling. Although I must point out this is actually capped at 3 empties per customer per month to encourage conscious consumption of its products. And on the right-hand side, empty full-size makeup and skincare products from any brand are accepted as part of Bare Minerals' Give Back, Get Back recycling program. Members of the brand's FAB, Friends and Benefits loyalty program, can earn 5 FAB points for every item bought into participating Bare Minerals boutiques. Furthermore, proceeds that are actually generated by this recycling program are donated to help alleviate hunger in local communities through a partnership with the G2 Revolution Feed the Future initiative. So really nice full circle initiative. And so there you have it, our 5 guiding principles for crafting compelling, sustainable beauty communications. So 1, create a compelling and ownable narrative underpinned by action. 2, appeal to the new skinless consumer mindset. 3, be generous and transparent in sharing education and insight. 4, recognize that circular beauty can extend beyond category. And finally 5, consider making recycling part of your CRM strategy. Thank you very much.
Any questions anybody wants to ask to Sally-Ann, or anything you want to reflect on that at all? I was going to ask, Sistine, with your bring back scheme, do you use it as part of your CRM program as well? Or I know it's obviously just in trial at the moment, so the logistics of getting it to work is part of it. But
so it is part of our overall communications. Yep. We don't have a scheme as such. Yep. We have, however, felt the need to put in place a sort of rewarding program as part of the recycling program. I think we discussed that last time. Obviously an incentive for the consumer to go the extra step of bringing back their bottles in store, but also I think, as Sally-Ann just said, is also to make them feel that they are part of the common effort, and participating in the change as well, so they can be receiving an incentive for every product they're bringing back in store.
Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a question to Natalie, because you asked a question earlier. Sorry, and it's not related to Sally. I just not forget it. You asked a question about recycling options for fragrance, didn't you? And that was a challenge you were having with TerraCycle. Anybody got any expertise on that? Sorry, so I don't want to forget that point because you raised it as a question. Anybody got any insight on that or expertise for Natalie at all on recycling options where fragrance is involved? And Keita at all, have you got anything from Harrods at all on that?
I'll have a look at the proposal actually now as we're speaking from Handel to see if they do take glass, but I know it was one of the issues we had, and when we were speaking to ProCycle, they were quite unclear about what it is they could and couldn't take, which was stressing me out a little bit when trying to plan it, because obviously we're not then aware of where we can promote, but I'm just opening it up. And
thanks, Keita.
I think one thing that's quite difficult for us as well is we don't have any own label beauty. So obviously we want to work and build into our material sourcing strategy that, you know, beauty is part of that going forward. But it's quite hard in terms of setting up a scheme and then, you know, investing in something as big as TerraCycle, because the cost is quite prohibitive for us. But when we were looking at some of these other schemes, we were just trying to see how much they could take, and I've just opened this up. So Handle take plastic, aluminium, razors, contact lenses, outer packaging, cardboard, etc., and then makeup too. So I'm assuming that's like if any containers still have makeup in them, they'll clear them out. There's no mention of glass on there, but that's quite an interesting one, and one we can definitely raise with them.
I wonder if it's something we could ask the food and drink group later this week, or is it next week, whenever they're
yes, tomorrow, isn't it? Good point, Steph.
Interesting. One of the dynamics that we've witnessed is that because there are some fundamental challenges, a lot of the luxury players, and within that, a lot of the fragrance brands, are actually leaning more towards refillable options, where there is an acceptance that that kind of package will never go away, but it's meant to be such a covetable item that you do want to keep it, and then they make refillable options available. So I know Dior have debuted some refillable fragrance options for Sauvage, for example, and we're increasingly seeing them leaning towards refillable at the kind of luxury and fragrance end of the spectrum, which maybe speaks to me to the fact that there are some issues there with recyclability.
And Sistine, obviously you've championed the glass bottles for the hand wash, haven't you, for that reason, for the refills, haven't you?
Sorry. Yes, absolutely. And I think from a fragrance point of view as well, it's not something we've investigated because our fragrance bottles are refillable as well. And exactly as Sally-Anne, we've developed them with a view of making them desirable and something you want to invest in and keep for a long time, because we saw that this is where the consumer's heart was at. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the stance on the glasses.
Understood. Thank you.
Just have a question.
Sorry, please.
Sorry, Charlotte.
Sorry, Rizzy.
For Sally-Anne, in some of our previous groups, the kind of ambiguity around leftover product in the containers, did any of the brands kind of bring that up as an issue?
No, not explicitly in communications. It is generally interesting that the shorthand is empties, which doesn't mean that it's empty of all product. But no, it's not something that actually people have explicitly spoken to, exactly the state in which your product has to be returned. But I think you make a very good point.
Yeah, I think Estée Lauder brought it up, and they were saying, what do you do in this circumstance? Do you put it back on the consumer and say, we can't accept it unless the product is completely empty, or do you have the capacity to kind of clean the containers before being recycled? So I think it's something that might come up in the future.
Definitely, because it is a hassle, I say, from purely just the customer perspective of trying to clean out the product, particularly if it's something that is pump based and things like that. It is just painful. I can't remember what it was. It was hand lotion or something like that was so out of date. It was just and there's a pain of trying to clean it. It took commitment as a customer to make sure you were committed to recycling this properly, definitely. But a challenge, because obviously I appreciate from a recycling perspective, they then can't have the burden of having to do all of that clean themselves as well. So I think there's that gap, isn't there? I want to make it as easy for the customer as possible, but actually still the realities of what is involved ensuring the product is clean and able for recyclable. And Natalie, what's the particular, you're working with TerraCycle. Is it just the fragrance part of the recycling you're having problems with, or anything else you're encountering?
It's the fragrance part, because they're obviously they come in glass bottles, and for us that's really the bulk of our product lineup. So for us, it's very much the fragrance discussing.
Well, I think Steph made a great point about, we've been setting tables with the food and drinks group as well, and we were trying to organise a joint session on glass, actually, between food and drink and beauty, to talk about glass as a material, given that all of you have glass as one of the essential materials for your packaging, and to understand for the drinks businesses what expertise and best practice they've got on glass. So let's make a note to maybe try to do that group session again for these two groups. I think there'll be a lot to exchange on what you're both seeing and experiencing. as well. Any other questions on comms for Sally at all? Or Sally, anything that you've seen from the brands that, within this group that you think has been particularly strong examples of the communications? I always think Watson Grow's been a brilliant example of how you communicate your work, but also the Estée Lauder companies as well have been very, very strong in their comms, haven't they?
I would have a question for Sally.
Please.
So on your first point about creating a compelling narrative, I think you showed some great examples of some brands that very much have made sustainability part of their brand DNA, sort of from inception. What is your recommendation for heritage brands, let's say heritage luxury brand that's been around for a long time? How should they go about when crafting a compelling narrative that works for them? How can they link that to their brand DNA? And how can they link the brand DNA to the sustainability discussion?
Of course, yeah. I mean, a lot of the work that we do at Spring is sort of exactly that. It's looking into the heart of the brand and identifying what the kind of true values that the brand has had from its sort of outset that are relevant to the current day and sort of feel timely in terms of what's happening from consumers and culturally. So often there is a red thread that can be found, and often in quite unexpected places, even if it is, a desire to innovate or do things differently, and how that then speaks to where you find yourselves in the present day in regards to sustainability. I think it's always really nice if it's baked into some sort of brand truth, because it just feels a lot more authentic. We've seen a lot of greenwashing that is rife, where it's really not rooted in anything other than sort of commercial cynicism and trying to get people to buy a product, even if it's not truly sustainable. So I think even the fact that there is that intent behind it to make it be linked to the brand DNA means that it's going to be much more authentic and compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more question, if that's okay.
Please.
It just came to my mind. It's been a very isolated incident, but I think it's happened a couple of times where, as per our communications and so on, talking about sustainability, we've also seen a bit of backlash from some customers who sort of accused us and other brands in saying, we're tired of that message coming through all the time, making us feel guilty about consumption as well. I was just wondering if that's something you've seen as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's how to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point, because ultimately beauty is a category that people are sort of still really kind of emotionally involved in and do really enjoy for reasons that aren't just purely sustainability. And actually there's some really interesting research to say that sustainability isn't the number one driver for purchase in the beauty category. In fact, I think it ranks at number 4, including according to the latest research I've seen. So I think it's important within this. Obviously there are some brands where sustainability is much more at the forefront. I think, Rabanne is one such example. And I think as such, they appeal to a consumer for whom that is a much higher order kind of need. But I think otherwise it's making sure that sustainability is part of the message, not the only message, and being a little bit more tempered about how you capture people's imaginations and emotions when it comes to a beauty purchase, and how you satisfy the fact that this product will actually ultimately work. And then, perhaps the sort of third or fourth consideration is how sustainability is a part of that story. But I think you're right. It's not the number one leader for all consumers, and therefore that needs to be taken into account in any communications that you share too.
I think it's a great point, Sistine, because there is that kind of tension between, obviously, particularly for luxury, we are selling a dream, we're selling an experience, a moment of indulgence, a moment of joy. And there is an element of sustainability being just guilt-free enjoyment. So therefore, how front foot are you on your sustainability messaging? Because actually it's kind of, for want of an awful expression, but it's a hygiene factor for a lot of customers. They just want to know it's happening. That's great you're doing it. Communicate it infrequently just to remind me. But it, as you rightly do, it's not always the kind of the front message. It's there as the yes, this is happening. This is the information if you do want to find more. I do think a good example, and I know they're a client of yours as well, Sally Ann with Spring, is Mulberry. And I think they might have got Mulberry to come and speak to this group a while ago, but I can't remember which it is now. But I think their approach, the information is there on the website if you want to find it. So they have information by each product, but there is essentially a tab. But if you want to find out more, then you can. And I think they do get that balance right between communicating all of the desirability, but also then having the supporting points there sustainability as well. Any other points before we move on at all? Just looking around quick.
I just wanted to circle back, Natalie, to your point about heritage brands and how do you tell the story, and a really interesting collaboration that came about a couple of weeks ago was actually with Bentley and McLaren, which are two. You've got McLaren, which is 101, 102, and Macallan, which is 200 plus, and they've now basically built this partnership about how can they take this heritage but springboard forward. I think we've got a press release on it in the digest, so I'll dig it up and I can send it to you just so you can get a bit of an idea of how they've sort of repositioned themselves. And then also happy to introduce you to either of them because they're both Walpole members.
Thank you.
It's a great example, Steph, quite both heritage businesses that are understood have got, particularly for Bentley, I mean, a bigger footprint than many. And it's a beautiful collaboration, actually. Really, really stunning collaboration between two businesses working to develop their future relevance. And the Bentley case study is actually just, if you want to own the Bentley case study, is a really good one for a heritage brand, fully embracing the impact of their business model and then adapting product to reflect the needs of climate action and future customer needs. It's a really good question though around the kind of the heritage piece, is that, how do you do it in a way that is relevant? Where do you go back to Sally Ann's point, in your DNA to find the relevance for it? I think you guys wouldn't really, we had a session with our interiors group with Wedgwood, and they have got some amazing rich heritage around Wedgwood family members' role in the end of slavery. But they couldn't just go out with that as a message because they haven't done anything in the intervening period. So they've got phenomenal history, but it's got to be relevant, and you've got to show that kind of the build over time as well. To just come out and say, yes, we were incredible philanthropic business in our time, this wouldn't be relevant. So it's also that building that story as well, isn't there? That building up that new heritage around sustainability too. But please use this group to ask questions, and other members as well, because there is amazing knowledge from the membership community. We might move on because I'm just conscious of time and wanting to talk a bit about the climate action piece, because it's been a conversation across a number of the groups, and the reason being is, so we're obviously, climate action is one of our aspiration points under Pillar 2, and the 50% emissions in Scope 1, 2 and 3. We have been approached by Race to Zero to do more with them and to look to encourage Walpole members to sign up to Race to Zero. So Race to Zero, the big priorities are halving your emissions by 2030 and then getting to net zero by 2050. It is a global campaign, but of which UK government is very strongly behind. Of course, it is front of mind at the moment because of COP26 and the desire for the UK to show our leadership on climate action. We've also been working with, I think some of you know already, with Great British Brands and their Great British Brands Zero publication, which is going to be a publication produced for COP to highlight exemplary expertise across the luxury sector in terms of climate action and sustainability. So that's why it's been more front of mind. But we are hearing from members that there is tension about the smaller brands. How do you actually measure and approach your carbon and greenhouse gas emissions? And then for the other bigger brands, we're seeing that they are adopting science-based targets. So there's quite a disparity. There would be, because our membership are range from the global big brands of Burberry down to much smaller players. So we'd love to hear from this group, what is your approach to climate action and measuring your emissions? We will be running a session with Race to Zero at some point in September to be able to share that with members, and we hope encourage a number of members to sign up to those commitments on top of the commitments that we're already making within the manifesto.
I think we've lost her.
I've still got Ankita. It's hard to tell when somebody's on mute and they're off screen. Ankita, are you still there?
I am, but I lost sound there for a second.
Oh, fantastic, good. It was just, could you kind of recapping on where you are in terms of your emissions measurements? Because I know we talked obviously yesterday, you've looked at science-based targeting, but science-based targets, but other approaches. It'd be great to hear from you how you're approaching it.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Thanks,
no worries. We started talking about this early last year, and we decided to use 2019 data as a baseline because I think 2020 was a bit of a write-off for all of us in terms of store ops and general day-to-day emissions. So we brought in a consultant who could map out our emissions broken down per each location. And we've decided to map out all of these initiatives, which are short, medium and long term, to align us with becoming net zero in the future. So at the moment, we're just at a stage where we've got all of the findings back from the consultant, and I was in quite a confident place to, go to the business previously and say, let's put solar panels on our warehouse roof, let's change our fleet to electric, let's transition to LED lighting and do lighting retrofits. But I didn't have the capability to go to the business and say, this is the investment it would require, this is the payback period, etc. So that's what the consultant has really come in and done with that data. So we're presenting that to our MD in a few weeks. And then the idea is, once things are signed off in terms of initiatives, we can then map out those annual targets to lead us towards net zero. We didn't go down the route of initially, and we might do this in the future, they will align with the science-based target requirements, but we haven't gone down the official route of doing that just yet because cost-wise it was quite prohibitive at that stage. But I think once we have a clear plan in place, we might look to do that in the future, definitely.
And Keita, have you looked at Race to Zero at all as something that you might sign up to and commit to?
We are looking at different initiatives to sign up to, and it's a really good question. So we looked at, I think Bianca and the team is just summarising RE100 for us, but we can do Race to Zero as well. For all of the other areas of the work we're doing, how we're adding authority to it is through these partnerships. So, for example, the work that we've done in plastic and packaging, we're partnering with the Plastics Pact to just be able to really communicate, all of the changes we're making across the business. So I think that's the route we're going down, but we're definitely willing to explore as many as you can suggest.
Great, thanks, Keita. Natalie, do you have visibility on your? I know when previously we've talked that Van Halligan's looking at a range of progress across the sustainability agenda. Where are you at with your climate action work?
So in our case, I think we're part of PUSH, obviously, so our Spanish headquarters. So they're really driving the sustainability agenda. So they have signed to a number of industry bodies, such as CDP, which I'm not really sure what it stands for, to be honest. CBT, science-based targets. So the number of initiatives that the beauty and fashion division, so one of the three divisions of which Van Halligan's is part, has signed up to. So there's a lot driven at a corporate level. And then at the brand level, we're obviously looking at our own initiatives. So paper reduction, renewable energy, 100% of our fragrances or the alcohol in our fragrances from natural sources. So I think we're working in parallel at a brand level and at a corporate level to really accelerate our ESG efforts.
Yes, and I think that's what, obviously for a number of member businesses, they are part of a larger corporate, and as such, those decisions are made at a corporate level as opposed to necessarily an individual brand level. And I think that's kind of obviously where a brand CEO can or can't sign up to particular things here in the UK, is that actually the targets are being set at a corporate level. And Sistine, remind us with Molton Brown as well. So we have talked about this previously, your climate commitments and where you're pitching those to.
Yeah, of course. So on top of all the work we've been doing more recently and more visibly from a packaging point of view, when it comes to our operations, we're very lucky because we own our own manufacturing facility. So there's a lot we can control and put in place there. So our main priorities have been renewable electricity. And the fact that since 2016, the entire facility has been powered by 100% renewable energy. Moving to cold mixing as well, it's been a big one for us. and sort of being able to handle all our formula mixing, moving them from hot mixing to cold mixing, thus saving energy. Putting in place reversed and greener logistics, so the return recycle reward program, but also how we're running our logistic from the warehouse to the factory to our stores as well. And the final one is all around emissions and waste management as well. So we committed to be net carbon neutral by the end of this year, while offsetting our carbon footprints. And currently we've got about 98% of our LSNAM facility waste that is recycled, reused, or composted as well. And our ambition commitment is to move to zero landfill waste by 2025. So that's everything that's happening at brand level. And obviously there's a lot more happening at corporate level with CAO as well. So CAO are incredibly committed to more sustainable lifestyle approach via their Kirai lifestyle plan. And on their side, the biggest commitment, like most straightforward commitments, are reducing CO2 emission to zero by 2040 and becoming carbon negative by 2050. So they're working at corporate level and also with every individual brands to achieve those common goals.
Yeah, thank you. Really helpful. Anybody else want to update that at all? Irina, do you want to come in on that at all from the carbon perspective? I know you're a very small brand and
yeah, sure.
Brands of tomorrow, but
I mean, we're a very small brand, and I'd love to. We've got a goal to be carbon neutral by 2030. We do a lot already in the fact that we produce everything in Italy. We source 100% from Italy. Our farm, the water's from rainwater harvesting. We have solar panels at our farm as well. Of course, there's also lots of things that are hard for us to control because we outsource a lot of things. So our lab is outsourced, our fulfillment houses are outsourced, but we're now looking at low emission vehicles and different options in terms of fulfillment. But I think my biggest challenge is measuring our emissions and creating a baseline, because every company that I've looked at or spoken to, it's incredibly expensive for a business like mine to do that at this stage. So for us, it's more about taking the right decisions where we can, but I still haven't been able to really map out our emissions or create kind of a baseline that I can then target against. So if you have any advice or any cheap ways to create baseline or map emissions, that would be incredibly helpful.
With pleasure, and this came up with the group yesterday as well with our fashion apparel members, is the number of the smaller businesses. We're looking for smaller scale consultancies who could help with that mapping exercise, and we can send a couple of those through partners that we're going to be working with from a Walpole perspective. But also, I think it was you yesterday, Ankita, you talked about the carbon trust, the SME carbon calculator as well. So there certainly are options. Ankita, sorry, you come off mute. Did you want to dive in on something there?
No, that's fine. I think the other lady on the call mentioned the carbon trust calculator. They used it, didn't they?
Yes, and forgive me, it's sometimes we're quite large groups to remember exactly who said what, but we can certainly share the details that we've shared with the group yesterday. But Green Element, South Pole are the two that we Walpole are going to work with as the larger businesses, working with the Carbon Trust. But Harrod's team, if you can share your consultants at all, it's really helpful to always have that. And Molten Brand, and Sistine, you worked with Futera, didn't you, for your work? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, a larger scale business.
Corporate and brand level.
Yeah, it might be out of the size. Let's set the scale for own. Anything, so what we'll do on that, so we'll watch out for the webinar in probably September time with Race to Zero. Obviously they are super keen that we are seeing more businesses committing to Race to Zero and their goals and objectives ahead of COP26. We will have a look at our aspirations around emissions and possibly tighten those up and ask members to recommit to those. Obviously this is the decade of action, and the prioritisation of climate action is top of the agenda. I'm just looking at our other agenda points. Adnan, we've not heard from you yet today. Is there anything you wanted to add I know as a packaging business, it's a little bit different from those with products, but please do dive in.
That's okay, thank you. So it's really interesting to see sort of all the other sort of recycling parts that that you guys are working with, and all the different companies. Because we're a packaging business ourselves, we actually produce packaging, but it's just interesting to see how sort of, I guess, brands are looking at it from that circular economy part of it. And I think what we're trying to do is work with suppliers before us to see where that material comes in. So try and loop in the other side of the packaging process. So using materials that have already been used to try and produce a packaging. And I think a big one we're trying to look at the moment, I'm trying to source materials that are more consumer compostable. I think that's a big thing, whereby we're actually looking at this, we're playing around with it this weekend actually. We had all this packaging at home and we thought, actually, most people probably just put it in a bin and sort of just dispose of it, as much as us as brands try and educate and help the consumer to try and obviously have an end goal. It's still not the same. So I think that's what we're trying to do at the moment, is try and find a material that's easily compostable for consumers to put. And there's a lot of people actually, I realized, that are just have their own compost heap in the back, and they use it for gardening and things, especially more and more people. I'm looking UK wide here, but actually they're doing more things like gardening and growing their own vegetables and things like that. And this compost actually helps towards that. So we're trying to loop in with sort of more consumers in their day-to-day life. But yeah, that's a work in progress at the moment.
Yeah, no, do please keep us abreast of anything on packaging that anybody wants to ask questions about. Yeah, Adnan is the expert there, so please do feel free to ask those questions.
Thank you, Charlotte.
No, it's a pleasure. What might do, we might wrap up for now. Is there any other things you want to talk about? What would be terrific is for the next session, if you can send through agenda points you'd like to discuss. So we have got 2 more sessions this year, end of September, early October time, and then one later in towards the end of November and December. We are also looking for working group chairs as well. But please let us know what agenda points would be helpful to discuss. Obviously, we've got a number of action points coming from the conversation that I think would be really terrific. It would be great to hear from First Mile if they could come and talk to the group. And Natalie would love to see the new packaging next time as well. Further discussion on the recycling challenging for fragrance. I think if we maybe do a follow-up with the food and drinks group, do a session on glass, could be quite useful just to share some expertise there. We could also ask Green Element to come and talk to this group as well, for the smaller brands that are looking at how do they measure their emissions. And I also would be good to hear from TerraCycle, and then hopefully, Harrod, in the next couple of sessions, we can hear an update of your trial as well, your bring back trial. Would be terrific to hear as well. And we'll certainly try to get an update from Estee Lauder companies as well on that, because I know they were talking about it, but I'm not sure where they've got to with those. So if there's no other points, please raise a hand if there is anything else you want to table, or we can do that on email. One quick thing, Walpole Summit, 6th of September. Of course, sustainability will be a theme throughout the whole day, but we do have one dedicated, we can make the whole week sustainability, but we've got one dedicated session that will look at the role of brands in driving change, and in particular, the role of creativity in driving change through businesses, but also customers. We've got Tom Berry, who's the global CSR lead for Farfetch, speaking, and a number of other speakers. So if you would like to book tickets, please do. The member rate is still available. I think it's through till mid-August, but we'll pop that on the email as well. But do book tickets, and we hope that you can come. So without any further ado, we'll wrap up from there. Big thank you, Sally, so much for coming to join us. If you ever want to join this group, please do. You know, Spring have got amazing expertise across the beauty sector, with the big players and the smaller players as well. And it's always great to hear you talk about other brands outside of the Walpole community.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.
And Rebecca and Bianca, good luck with your new roles. Remember, the Walpole team is always here to help you. And we're so appreciative of all Harrod's support as well. Well, terrific. We'll wrap up there. We will send a quick agenda note round, just covering off some of the discussion points. But please don't hesitate to be in touch with anything else.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye-bye.